What is the cheapest, stingiest thing you have seen someone do? I was working in a restaurant in Montreal and the staff decided to all have a picnic and a few beers together. We all pitched in to get steaks, salads and drinks. I invited a friend that did not work with us and he showed up with a potato. Yes, one potato. He drank the beer, ate salad and steak. Oh, and he ate his potato too. My brother had an old Fiat 127. The gas dial had not worked for a while, so sometimes he would run out of gas. One time he was with my young nephew when it happened again. They pushed it for like half a mile. Arriving at the gas station he realized it was rather more expensive than another station further up the road, so they pushed it for another half mile. My mate lays out a certain number of sheets of toilet roll if you ask to use his loot. I went for a meal with a group of about 6 friends. When it came time to divvy up the bill, one friend said he had not got cash on him, but if we all chipped in the cash for our share he would put it on his card. He was also very keen to ensure we all put in a decent tip in the UK, so tipping is common in a restaurant, but not required. Our friend went up to the bar to pay, but unfortunately for him another member of our party went to the restroom at the same time, and was surprised to notice him paying in cash. We pulled him up on this, and it turned out the stingy bastard was using our tips to cover his part of the meal. This chap has forevermore been ribbed as having short arms and deep pockets. He is trusted by no one. My grandmother, as she did not own a computer, had to mail in all her bill payments. One month she did not get her water bill or it was delivered to someone else by accident. Whatever the cause, her next bill was for both that month and the previous month and included a late fee that was less than the cost of a stamp. For the rest of her life she skipped the bill one month and then paid both the next because she saved a few cents by using just one stamp instead of 2. This was a woman who had somewhere around $1 million in the bank when she died. My dad once took a broken fork to the aerospace company he worked for and had a highly skilled welder weld it back together. This was a cheap shit dinner fork. I was at a friend's apartment about 5 years ago for a moving in get-together with about 10 others. Halfway through the party, I used the bathroom and when I went to wash my hands, I noticed he had not gotten around to buying hand towels yet. Giving him some slack and understanding it was his first place, I figured I would just grab a few squares of toilet paper and simply dab my hands with that. Not a big deal. But the roll of toilet paper was empty, so I just dried my hands on my pants and let my friend know he needed to replace the roll. After I tell him, this mother ducker walks into the bathroom, grabs what he thought were the cleanest squares of used toilet paper from the trash can and wraps them around the empty roll. I do not know what the heck those squares were used for or what possessed him to do something so unsanitary and absurd. But I did not end up staying at the party much longer to ask him why. Very easily the cheapest, stingiest, and most disgusting thing I have witnessed in my life. I was really that close to the guy who threw the party and that basically confirmed that I would not be making any attempts to further the friendship. My mom's cousin would invite us over for a barbecue, and go around to each person and ask if they want a hamburger or a hot dog. I got the stink eye once for asking for one of each. When it got dark out, her husband would want to do a fireworks show, and asked everybody to chip in money for it. They were cheap fireworks too, or to be more accurate, some sparks danced on the ground for a few seconds. One of their dogs was a massive dick when it came to food. We had dessert pastries and right as I was bringing my Claire to my mouth, this stick of a dog jumps up onto me and snatches it out of my hand. Because of the whole one per person ration, I had no dessert that day. Another time, the dog attempted to eat their younger daughter's hot dog. He did not actually get it, but several of us had witnessed that the hot dog had been licked. My cousin and her husband said that their daughter could still eat it. She was only 3 years old and would not know the difference. My uncle eventually stepped up, taking the hot dog and throwing it in the trash can, leaving them the options of making one more hot dog because we all knew there were more in the freezer, or letting their daughter starve because they were too cheap to make extra food. I think they have been less stingy since that incident, but none of us go to their barbecues anymore. I used to work as a waiter for a country club. I had a woman tell me she was done with her plate, so I cleared it off the table. When I returned to ask if they wanted dessert, she asks where are my leftovers. I calmly responded that she had no food left on her plate. Her response: "Oh, I wanted you to box up the skin from my baked potato so I could give it to my dog." Requested to see the manager. $80 bill completely free of charge. To this day I swear she had it planned the whole time. $80 bill completely free of charge. Are you ducking kidding me? Yay, WTF. Also, when she mentioned it was for her dog, I would have gone back and grabbed it out of the trash of wherever. A school friend's dad made her bread sandwiches because he did not want to waste money on pointless fillings when the bread would swell in your stomach with water. Oh, and that sandwich fillings were a part of the capitalist machine that rules us all. Was going to have a movie night with some friends. This one guy is a complete miser. Told him to bring round some beers and party food. He doesn't bother with any beers. Says he forgot, just brings around his dinner that he has just bought from Tesco's that he wants to cook, which he does, in my kitchen. Of course he drinks the beers that we all supplied. Halfway through the film he ups and leaves, saying he does not like the movie. In college I lived with 4 other guys and they refused to buy toilet paper. It was disgusting. They would just shit and hop in the shower to wash off but never had toilet paper. Oftentimes if they really needed to poop but did not want to go through the trouble of showering after, they would have another go get napkins from the McDonald's that was super close to us. I had my own damn toilet paper and was not letting them use it up just to never replace it. Did this several times, but one of my roommates, I guess, was like, "Duck it, I will take one for the team." He worked at a gym, so he took a massive roll of toilet paper that goes in their public restrooms. I mean like a 16-inch diameter, but 5-inch wide wheel of toilet paper. Cheap motherfuckers, but that's college. When I was a teen, a guy who I respected a lot paid me to rake his yard. After we are done, he drives me home and on the way we stop at the local country store to buy a soda and snack. I did not expect him to pay for me because I had my own money now that I did just turned raking his yard, so I put my merch on the checkout counter and then he slides his stuff beside mine like he is going to pay, except he did not. The clerk looks to me since I had money out to pay for it and he looks at me too as if to say, "Well, pay her." I was confused, but paid for it. He apologized later and I lost respect for him. My flatmate stole TP from his office when it was his turn to buy, only he stole one roll and thought that was equivalent of the 16-pack the rest of us buy. Seriously, you do not have to buy that often and it is like $2-3 for 16. Went out to dinner. Check came in. Let us say it was a total of 40 for 4 people. 3 of us put in 12 each, for our parts and tips. The 4th person looked at the cash we put down, counted it, and put in 4. My friend's dad would abuse Walmart's return policy. He would do things like get a gallon of milk, drink most of it, fill it back up with water, and take it back to exchange it. I have heard people admit they will go to Costco for lunch and just walk around to every sample table getting little free bites until they are full. I am sure there is much worse than this, but my boss is a millionaire. He owns a lot of companies, is well known in his industry and is generally a baller. He splurges on us if we have done well, always picks up the tab if we are out, does not put a spend cap on things like Christmas parties. But one time I had to fly from the UK to America. To save money I had to get 4 flights instead of one direct one. My journey took 24 hours instead of 11, and I had to do 3 days work in the US literally 7 hours after I landed, jet lag and all. If that was not annoying enough, the flight was booked to take off at 9 a.m. That meant getting to the airport at 6 a.m. I do not live anywhere near an airport and had to travel south to London, then get across London, and then travel south for another hour to the airport. The whole journey could have been done in 3 hours at a push. Due to the time of day, public transport was limited. There was one train I could get that would have allowed me to make it, considering there would have been 6 stages to my journey. I did not want to risk any delays that would mean me missing my flight. An old neighbor of mine was a taxi driver. I called him up, got mates rates on a journey, the taxi costing a whole 10 more than my public transport journey would have done, but taking less than a third of the time. And he threw something of a fit in front of the entire office about this, about how it was lazy, about how there was ways I could do it on public transport that would be cheaper. He did not understand that not living in London means I am limited to one train per hour. There is no 24-hour buses. If the train does not show up or is late, that is it. After a while he calmed down and said it was fine to get the taxi if I did not take any luggage. He wanted me to travel with just hand luggage. It would not have been the end of the world if I did not have to carry about 50 brochures, a ton of contracts and loads of other shit which filled half a normal suitcase. He also said I could just wear my suit on the plane, the same suit I was going to wear for the next 3 days to save space. I was traveling for over 24 hours each way and going to the West Coast in peak summer time where temps were 45 degrees Celsius during the day. It was so weird to see such a generous man being so uptight about what was only around 50 worth of extra costs to make the experience remotely bearable. A guy we were sort of friends with at university was the worst. He used to carry around a calculator and use it to calculate the difference between the cheapest beers per ml. One time we all chipped in 3 for a shot that was $2.97 and he demanded his 3p change, which the guy who bought it had given to the bartender as a tip. We all pelted pennies at him throughout the night and he picked every single one up. One time a bunch of us were making fajitas together and 2 of us did not want to have the steak strips which the guy insisted on getting because they were cheaper, so we bought chicken instead. This guy ate all the chicken and no steak. One night of pre-drinking he came to the party and said he did not have any booze. We reminded him that the supermarket next door was open for another hour and he said he had go in a few minutes. Guess what? He waited an hour and then tried to get booze of the rest of us. I gave him 1 beer and then saw him drinking out of my glass when he thought I was not looking. The same night as the beer incident, the queue for the bar was really long, so we gave him money to get drinks. I gave him 2 for my 2 drinks and he came back and said they were 3, so I owed him a quid. Out of spite, I said I had no change. The next morning at 9 a.m., he turns up at my door 45 minutes away from where he lived. He had no other reason to visit either and says that he had written in his notebook that I owed him a quid and asked me to pay up. This guy was super broke once, so a friend gave him 10 packs of instant noodles to keep him going until he got his student loan. Fine. 2 weeks later the friend who gave him the noodles was visiting and said, "Oh, I am skint mate. Do you mind if I have those 2 packs of noodles you have left over?" Stingy guy refuses of course and had hidden them when we went back to his room later in the day. I do not know why we hung around with this guy. To be honest, I think he just turned up to things without an invite. I did get my revenge when he picked up some weed for me and I did not give him the money. He badgered me about it every day for about 2 weeks and I told him he had get the money when I got my copy of Series 1 of The Thick of It back, which he had borrowed and not returned 2 years before. He barely spoke to me since. I meet with 3 buddies at a very nice bar restaurant. Let us call them Bob, John, and Travis. John has been going to this place for years, and the owner is an extremely close friend of his. Because of this, we get comp drinks all night, not just beers, but scotch, vodka, etc., etc., etc. Maybe $100 worth of free booze between us. Great times, right? Number why? Because Bob is a cheap, bloody, smelly little cunt. As we are drinking our asses off free of charge, we are also ordering food to make up for it. Pasta, chicken, fish, the works. But Bob is not happy, because Bob does not want to pay for anything. So what does Bob do? He asks for the special appetizer for $10, but asks the owner to make it dinner-sized. The owner responds, "Do you mean that you want the dinner instead of the appetizer? Duh." Alright, so we pig the duck out. We drink our asses off. Bob's wasted. We wait and wait and wait for Bob to eat a table-sized platter all by himself. Duck you, Bob. Then we get the bill. As I have noted above, it is about $100 less than it should have been, and we're all thrilled. Well, all of us except for Bob, because Bob's meal is $19 instead of $10. As John reminds him that he drank his weight in free liquor and begs him not to make a scene, Bob proceeds to go up to the owner behind the bar and throw a ducking shit fit about the $9 he should have saved on his special dinner-sized appetizer. The owner is stunned. John is furious. Travis hates confrontation, so Travis slinks out the door. "I am just a wallflower." Bob slams his fist on the counter. Bob points at the chalkboard. Bob whines, and high-eyedness that he does not have the money to pay for the extra $9 though he works a really ducking cushy job and eats out 3 times a day. He calls the owner names. He cries. He actually cries. Then he sits his bloated ass down, pitches in $10, and refuses to tip, and he smiles. The cunt is ducking smiling, and that sets John off. John flips his ducking shit, calls Bob every name in the book, and makes a go at me for trying to cover Bob just to get us the heck out of this place. He gets up on his chair. He throws handfuls of money in Bob's face like the guy's some fat, hairy Russian stripper. Women are stunned. The owner is laughing. Travis is looking in the window, and I am stuck with Bob, as John finally pays the bill, tips his friend $100, and stomps outside sending Travis flailing down the street. Bob looks at me. I look back at him. His only reaction, "What a Jew." Am I right? I leave Bob at the table, alone. We do not eat with Bob anymore. My friend sat in his car for 3 hours on a Saturday night rather than pay a $5 cover charge. My great-grandmother apparently took a Ziploc to buffets and after eating, would go back one last time, pile food on her plate then store it in the bag. She grew up during the Great Depression though. Grew up with a really thrifty family so I have more. We ended up going to a lot of events for free because my dad was super stingy but he wanted our family to have fun even if we did not have a lot of money to spend on entertainment. My dad randomly became friends with a woman he met at the movies. She had handfuls of free tickets to movies before they were widely released just so the movie critics could watch a show with a full audience. We ended up seeing hundreds of movies for free even though we had to get there early for good seats. These were the best types of showings too because they held promotions and gave out free posters, t-shirts, and knickknacks. Saw a lot of good movies and some really bad ones. I still know we have a Pan's Labyrinth poster up in the attic somewhere. I think we have a shirt from The Dark Knight too. 3. Speaking about free events. My dad signed up for some Disney theme parks roster whenever they would film something at Disney World and needed extras. I think he knew about this from chatting up with some random stranger who worked for Disney and befriending them as well. We had go to film shoots and each person gets a one-day ticket to any Disney theme park. This was the only way we could afford Disney for 4 people without a year-long pass. Unfortunately, Disney is not as fun without money because you miss out on a lot of the food and souvenirs, but other than that, it was nice to attend for free. Speaking of food, we would bring food from home to eat instead of eating there. Some film shoots were early in the morning and we could roam the park the same day before everyone else showed up, so we were first in line for everything. It was pretty nice. My dad has this strange habit of befriending random strangers at events and them having extra tickets to places. He had also have friends that knew about free concerts and festivals everywhere in the state of Florida. We had free tickets to see the circus 2 times, the Knights jousting on horses dinner thing, a lot of figure ice skating shows, so many museums, and a shitload of concerts. He and my mom always entered radio contests and they were lucky enough to win a lot. More free concerts and some with really good seats. Once saw Elton John first few rows. Saw Michael Bible when he was just getting popular. Funny story, during the concert he hugged my mom. 6. He would bid on eBay for vacations to timeshares on weeks the owners could not use instead of buying nights for hotels. We stayed in a nice cabin in rural Virginia for cheap. We stayed in a ritzy presidential suite in Washington, all for dirt cheap. This was back when the internet was not as popular, so I am not sure whether these rental timeshares are still a thing. Laughing. I could go on, but overall my childhood was a lot of fun even if my parents were stingy. I feel like their stinginess really helped us go to so many places as kids because they were driven to find all these free events because, in the end, it was really fun for them to do. Consider subscribing if you enjoyed this video and if you want to see more of Reddit Universe.